Hello and welcome to my advanced Billy guide. Today I will be going over all of my techniques I've picked up while playing Billy and adapted from other killers like Huntress or Nurse. This is not a beginner guide on how to play the game. I'm going to move forward assuming you know what perks I'm using, as well as have a basic understanding of how to play basic M1 killers and can land a back rev as Billy. He has a 4.6 standard movement speed, and while chainsaw sprinting he moves at 9.2 meters per second. Successful missed or bump penalty cooldowns are 3 seconds. During the first 3/4 of a second of his chainsaw sprint, he can steer really fast, after which slows down. This is the bread and butter of becoming a expert Billy player. Utilizing these first 3/4 seconds will give you hits you wouldn't think possible. To start, I will show the basic fundamentals of what makes a good Billy. These first few clips are just me sniping without any add-ons. Just need to get a feel for the turnings and what objects you can sort of bump into on the sides and not crash. This clip here, I'm just zoning out of the players from getting to the main building to make it easier to back rev or send them to an easily curvable loop. Here I'm coming in hot and I don't know where they are, but I see I can zone them from the pallet. Now she's stuck at an incredibly unsafe loop and I easily get the chainsaw. Too many Billy players go directly to the player, while on this map there's an incredibly hard loop to manage in the middle. So I zone out the Claudette, pressure her to dropping the pallet, then make my way for a back rev, which wouldn't happen with all the jungle gens and TL walls. Right here I'm just showing how buggy the game can be with that invisible wall, but also here's number one reason why we always use enduring. Once again, I just want to reiterate how amazing enduring is. For curving, all of your basic M1 killer mind games come into play, like showing a red light, moonwalking, breaking line of sight, and looking one way but whipping around the other, especially with double engravings. You want to get them into position to where you can get the curve. Here I pressured her into dropping out of the window because I could have curved around to the right, but instead she dropped and I got the chainsaw down the stairs. Playing a lot of Nurse and especially Huntress, you just learn where survivors will be, even if they're behind a wall if they hold W, and I made a good read here. For a short period of time after ending a sprint, Billy has a lingering hitbox, which this David ran into. While breaking a pallet, you can look up while revving to avoid the blind, keeping the survivor there for longer, and a good survivor will actually get the blind during the break animation. Body blocking is a very handy tool to have in any Billy or Bubba's player's pocket, and map knowledge goes a long way as well, which helped me out in body blocking this Jane when she juked me into one of the locker hole things. Here I was curving the wrong way on this loop and getting really greedy for non-engravings curves, so I ended up overheating and had this funny interaction with this ace, which I then paid him back for at this loop. You can't always go for curves, and you have to mix it up. And what I did right there is I faked the chainsaw to get into a position where I could land the back rev guaranteed. Covering the add-ons, we begin with the Bumper Billy add-ons. After the nerf, these are the only way to shorten the post-chainsaw sprint cooldown. Both combined lower the penalty from 3 seconds to under 2 seconds. I don't know the values for each individually, they're just less of a shortened cooldown. With these, you can try mind games where you crash on purpose to get the survivor to leave a strong loop or just meme around. They're really fun, and I'm glad they survived the add-on purge. Bumper add-ons are also really good for closing distance, and yeah, that half the distance. And for this clip, just pay attention to how this Adam left this loop to a dead zone. We'll come back to the clip for this zoning later though. For the next add-on, we just have Speed Limiter, which survivors hit by the chainsaw are not insta-downed and you get more blood points. You don't benefit from exposed status effect with your chainsaw, so you still can't insta-down even with like no ed or haunted grounds. It's just not a good add-on. Only play this if you want to meme, especially not if you want to sweat. For the next add-ons, we have Junkyard Air Filter and Punctured Muffler. These are the cooldown add-ons. There's actually one more. It's the Pig House Gloves, but they hardly do anything. They're absolutely worthless. Base Billy has about 6 consecutive back-to-back back revs without sprinting before he overheats, because you don't gain heat when you're not actively holding the rev button. Whatever the rev button is for you, it's M2 for me. The Junkyard Air Filter adds 20% to your overheat meter, so you have 120% to overheat. This adds 1.5% per second extra cooling, which helps a lot actually, even if it's a small number. Yeah, it basically doubles, like 11, 12 back-to-back back revs before you overheat. Yeah, they just make you like almost old base, no add-ons Billy. But I don't see a point to running these unless you're running like Infectious Fright and like Deer Stalker and you're just slugging everyone and you're not hooking anyone. The heavy clutch decreases your collision zone. No one knows the exact value but behavior. It's more of a training wheels add-on to practice curving or make risky maneuvers with one of the steering add-ons. I'm going to show a side-by-side comparison. Heavy clutch is on the left and without heavy clutch on the right. You can decide if it's something if you want to use. We're going to skip the Stealth and Engravings add-ons for now. They'll be getting their own section later in the video. For now, we arrive to the steering add-ons. Even just the yellow add-on greatly helps with maneuverability, and with both combined, you'll be doing donuts on rotten fields around 4 slugs in no time. Do be warned, the purple add-on adds a lot of time to the bump penalty, so it can be paired with the green bumper add-on to negate that drawback, or just be very careful while steering. With drift add-ons, I just take the idea from stealth killers to come in at weird angles, and it usually works on at least the first couple times on each survivor. This add-on does what it says, and it's just bad because what it does is pretty much nothing. This add-on is also pretty terrible. It adds 10% overheat cooling while a flashlight is on you, but while you're revving your back rev, you can't lose heat. So you tell me if it's worth an add-on slot. The next add-ons are the Instasaw add-ons. They're mostly relics of a bygone era. They aren't very good without dedicating a whole build either. Tuned carb lowers the charge time from 2.5 seconds to 2 seconds. Combined with Mother's Helpers, it lowers it to about 1 3/4 seconds. Tuned carb also comes with the big penalty of lowering your move speed to 4.4, which negates any distance or time saved from the faster chainsaw charging, making getting those M1s and chainsaws take exponentially longer outside of small car loops on Autohaven. Oh yeah, the House of Pain is an infinite now. Mother's Helpers don't have any downsides. They just only work for after getting pallets slammed. So if you don't use it with tuned carb, you need Enduring Spirit Fury and Lopro Chains to make use of them. The build we have for Instasaw is Nemesis and Play With Your Food. We don't want Enduring. Getting pallet slammed makes that person the new obsession, and immediately kicking that pallet will make you lose chase, giving you your first token, which increases your move speed by 5%. You lose tokens with offensive actions like chainsaw sprinting, so you won't be doing that to travel across the map. You might as well play Bubba at this point because his charge time is 2 seconds at base, without needing both your add-ons and 2 perks dedicated towards it. One interesting fact about Play With Your Food is that just revving the chainsaw and not sprinting doesn't eat any of your tokens up. So you can do the regular mind games at normal move speed or faster, and then back rev or curve or whatever. Here, if you pay attention to Play With Your Food, I have 2 stacks right now, and here's where I use up one of them to chainsaw the pallet. And over here, I start to rev, and then I cancel it, and I keep the stack. For Lopro Chains, it lets you chainsaw sprint through a pallet or a breakable wall. And shortly afterwards, if you hit a survivor, you only do 1 state of health damage to balance it out. This add-on is best paired with one of the Engravings, which we haven't covered yet, or Mother's Helpers. And you can curve through pallets and around walls but I just wasn't in a situation that I could do that in the games I recorded, but that is something you can do, although it's a little disorienting. The secret to Lopro Chains is just making the survivors think they're safe behind the pallet and moving them into a position where you can zoom on through without them expecting a single thing. Now we begin covering the stealth add-ons. They are significant enough of a different playstyle to warrant their own section in my opinion. Starting off, we have off-brand motor oil. Billy's chainsaw noise is map-wide. This add-on lowers the volume it's at up until you arrive basically on top of them. I pair this with a steering add-on to get those sneaky unexpected angles. I also use monitor and abuse to reduce my tear radius and throw people off even more. It's kind of a budget stealth thing going on, but it does work. For instance, these guys here, they don't really see me coming, and you can tell the moment they see me, they run the other way. Next up, we have the Apex Muffler, which eliminates the chainsaw noise entirely outside of Billy's tear radius. And for Dark Devotion purposes, that counts as a tear radius. I believe, at least back when the Nerf was happening. And the Iridescent Brick gives you undetectable after 2 seconds of sprinting, so you can imagine these two go really well together. And my idea for when I use them together is just to play normally, but have an element of surprise up my sleeve. So for recording purposes, I just chose monitor for shortened tear radius, discordance for some sneaky gin sniping. And apparently survivors really don't like this build because I got 2 DCs the first game I used them on. One thing to keep in mind is there's no visual feedback, everything's working unless you count survivor DCs. The next stealth add-on we are covering is the Leafy Mash, which grants undetectable for 15 seconds after landing a chainsaw hit, which combos really well with Apex Muffler. And an interesting interaction between these two add-ons and Infectious Fright is you don't lose your tear radius immediately when you go undetectable. It retracts, so to speak. So everyone in your tear radius will scream and then you disappear and they can't hear your chainsaw going. And survivors also don't like that either. And I am reusing this clip, but I wanted to show you more than one clip of the Leafy Mash Infectious combo. For the last stealth build in this guide, we're going with Apex Muffler, Spiked Boots, and Trail of Torment to kick a gin and become undetectable until either I hit someone or they touch the gin, which is basically an on-demand undetectable. It's not in the text, but it also runs out if the gen was at like 10% and you kicked it. It's gonna run out soon. Yeah, so here's a video of me using it to close distance on people unsuspecting and get it down. So yeah, here it is. Now that we're mostly done with the add-ons, we're gonna move on to a section I would just call more advanced techniques you can do with Billy that we didn't cover in the beginning. And one of them is called feathering. It's where you just let go of the rev button and your charge meter goes down and you stop building heat. You can use this to zone survivors into or keep them at places you want them to. So you can either back rev them in a dead zone or break a pallet with them on an unadvantageous side. Another good technique is to just tap the M2 button to bait out dead hard and immediately M1 if they don't have it, or wait for them to dead hard if they do have it. This works because on their side they're waiting to react to any movement you make. There used to be something called Parkour Billy and even Space Billy, but those are mostly a thing of the past. Here, this is pretty much the last spot you can do anything with parkour, and it's bouncing off the invisible hitbox of the truck or landing on the truck. And if there's a pallet at the truck, that loop is now useless because you're literally walking on top of it. And this requires double engravings as well. The last add-ons we're gonna cover today is the bread and butter of expert Billy players in my opinion, and probably the reason you came to this video if you're already good and you want to get better. I forget the exact values for the penalties for these add-ons, but both of them combined make the charge time about a little over 3 seconds. But they massively increase the speed you move. And if you remember, in the beginning I said the first 3/4 of a second you get amazing steering, and you can use that to whip around corners. These make you move faster, so you get more usage out of that time. I have a video that's a montage of me with double engravings for a way more comprehensive tile guide montage thing. And since we are in the advanced techniques section, we are going to cover something that I don't know if I'm the first to make up, but it's very, very handy to master and probably separates the top Billy players from the top 10 players, so to speak. First off, this is what happens whenever you take the corner too tight. you just smack against the wall. But this is just normal curving tightly, coming at an angle to let auto aim take care of the rest once you're at the other side of the loop. There's a technique Huntress players utilize called shoulder teching. I got this from Umbra. But basically, when a survivor is hugging a wall, a Huntress player can aim at their shoulder, and now whether they dodge or not, the hatchet will hit. This idea is derived exactly from that, and you gotta time it at high speeds while not crashing into the wall or taking too long that you just aren't anywhere near the loop by the end of the curve. And a side note, the hood of the car and I don't think the back side of the car either have collision, but the truck does. But now we're on to the shoulder tech. So the tree at the other end of this loop and also the tires are what I'm aiming for with this shoulder tech. This is a perfect place to practice it. But what you do is you delay by like a fraction of a second your curving, which will shoot you way off, and no matter if they dodge left or right, you're gonna hit them because you're aiming at their shoulder. That's why I call it the shoulder tech. Let's get to that. You would want to use this for good survivors that have already dodged you, so the next time you go for a curve on them, you already preemptively shoulder check them, and now they dodge into you. And after these instructional clips are over with, I will show you a live gameplay shoulder tech. And just as a side note, if it wasn't obvious already, I'm dubbing over my recorded footage after the fact. That's why I'm still doing this side-to-side motion. Here, I just wanted to show a slightly longer loop, and yeah, you gotta adjust your position to do the shoulder curve, and because it's just a wider obstacle. Right here is what happens when you turn before you sprint. You just turn and then sprint directly into the wall. This here is a shoulder tech from my montage video. Looks a lot different because I was using NVIDIA filters. If you are on PC, I recommend going to controls and mapping, turn right to E and turn left to Q, because it's a lot easier to turn with these because they're binary, unlike your mouse, which can drift unintentionally. Now for console, there are very high skilled Billy players on controller. It's just harder. One last thing, I did almost forget to put this clip into the video, but here I feather zoned this Mia into wasting her sprint burst and get the curve, and now I come over here to pressure the unhook. This Cheryl has been conditioned to be looping against a Billy who goes for curves and chainsaws pretty much exclusively. So here I do go for the curve and she dodges accordingly, but her conditioning puts her on a terrible side of the palette. I get the M1. So yeah, this was my in-depth Billy guide, and I'm not gonna say I know absolutely everything about Billy, or even if I'm the best, because I don't think I am. But all of these techniques will make you an absolute monster in the fog. as well as just proving my point that I don't think Billy has really gotten any weaker since his nerf, because that mostly just nerfed Instasaw, camping, and crack Billy. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and yeah, see you next time.